Tonight on News 5 Live, GOB pays stevedores 1 day after port asks court to stop payment. Drug traffickers resume flights to Belize. And the Minister of Home Affairs says curfew has not curtailed crime. These stories and more coming up on News 5 Live.
We have been a partner with Smart for over 10 plus years. We have a full Smart plan we use as our major driver for our business. We have a service that rolls over in that if you call one and it is busy, it rolls over to the next line. So once you call us, you can get us at any time. Before we got this Smart service, we were paying upwards of nearly $2,000 in phone bills. Since we've had our Smart service, we pay an average of about $600. So we've had tremendous saving, more than 50%. For the businesses, if you want to save money, switch to Smart because it is far more cost effective and the service is excellent.
Smart continues to be innovative in bringing new technology and meaningful savings during these challenging times to businesses across Belize. Sign up for our VoIP technology or broadband packages and save more.
It's almost lunchtime and Alice is getting hungry and forgot to bring cash. She remembers that eCash now has a geolocation feature in which she can easily view the eCash merchants near her, especially restaurants. Her co-workers also ask her to order food for them.
Chicken chow mein, please, and a Coke.
The merchant sends her the payment link. She taps confirm, and within a few minutes, her food is delivered. Alice then views her transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made. Then taps the split the bill button where she selects the unevenly option and moves the bar to the desired amount per person. The request is then sent to her friends. Her colleagues accept the request and are ready to enjoy their meals. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash make Alice's life a whole lot easier.
Are you looking for the right product to keep your family and your home safe? Then Spark Alcohol is exactly what you've been looking for. It prevents the spread of many diseases. It's also fast-drying, safe, and conveniently packaged in a spray bottle. Protect your family and your home with Spark Alcohol. Exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited.
This newscast is brought to you by the Belize Bank Limited. Our country, your bank.
Good evening and welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, February 23rd. I am Sabrina Daly. On Tuesday, Senior Counsel Godfrey Smith via Marine Parade Law Chambers applied for an urgent injunction to halt the payment of $1.5 million to the Christian Workers Union. The compensation is the result of a recent memorandum of understanding between the government of Belize and the CWU on behalf of stevedores who may have suffered prejudice when the Port of Belize was privatized in 2002. Notwithstanding the application before the Supreme Court, News 5 has confirmed with the president of the Christian Workers Union, Mose Hyde, that the payment has been made to the union's account. Earlier today, Prime Minister John Briceño spoke briefly on the court order being filed in the context of a claim being brought by the Port of Belize Limited against the CWU. PBL alleges that it lost over $1 million in revenue when the stevedores went on strike in January and is now suing the union to recover its lost income.
Well, I've not taken a hard look at it. That just happened yesterday, and our attorneys have not sat down to advise me. But my initial reaction is that it is unfortunate that that PBL would take such a step to be able to prevent the stevedores to get a fund that we believe that was merited. Is something that a part of trying to correct history and so that they can have access to these monies. The stevedores, they're not rich people. They need the money. But at the same time, we also have to be appealing also to the stevedores to be able to sit down and work out an agreement with PBL in providing, increasing the efficiencies within the Port of Belize, because when we're not efficient, then it costs all of us.
Well, if the port is saying that during that intervening time they've lost over $1 million, then wouldn't it be fair for them to put in a claim to see how they can recover that?
I'm sure that there are other ways that they could find how they could recover it, and not on the backs of the stevedores.
Late this evening, the Port of Belize Limited issued a release responding to GOB's payment already being made to the Christian Workers Union. The release says, quote, "In light of this, the Port of Belize will no longer engage in any negotiation with the CWU concerning changes to the working hours of stevedores, and the working patterns of stevedores at the port will remain the same as those presently in place," unquote. The release goes on to say, quote, "Port of Belize will also now leave it to the government of Belize to finalize with the stevedores its understanding of the working conditions requirement contained in paragraph 2 of the Memorandum of Understanding between the government and the CWU," unquote. The means by which the seven-figure sum would be defrayed has raised several concerns, including the passage of legislation to facilitate the payment. According to PM Briceño, it will not be necessary as government would simply include that figure in its budget for the 2022 fiscal year.
That is not true. We do not need legislation. What we will do is that we will also include it in the budget. You know that the legislation on it is about payments of over $5 million. So that $1.5 million will be included in the new budget. Yes, we will pay it in advance because it is something that we felt that needed to be done. And at the same time to be able to ease the tensions that was taking place at the port of Belize. We wanted to make sure that we can settle that without any sort of bloodshed or any kind of violence. If you look at how the previous government handled these matters, you know, here at PBL in 2020, I think it was that the police went in there and many of the stevedores were brutalized. And the same thing applies to BSI. When the cane farmers decided to protest in 2009. Again, the previous government sent in the BDF, they sent in the police and brutalized people, and unfortunately a life was lost.
We also sought comment from Dean Flowers, the president of the Public Service Union, a sister union of the Christian Workers Union, CWU. In his remarks, Flowers registered his personal dissatisfaction with the actions of these private companies, while calling on the government to offer legal support to CWU, as is being done for the Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association.
As the leader of the largest public sector union, I will say that I am disgusted by the Port of Belize Limited and ASR BSI. Extremely disgusted, because these capitalists believe that when they cannot continue to rape and abuse workers the way that they've grown accustomed to, that they can go to court and try to squeeze you financially. I want to say also that I was disappointed to hear the Minister of Agriculture only say that government will be looking at supporting the BCFA in terms of indemnifying them and providing the legal and financial support that they will require. And not a singular comment was made about government supporting the stevedores financially and legally. And I want to call on the government to defend the brothers and sisters of the Christian Workers Union in this litigation. They are the one who took the decision to put these individuals in this mess against another capitalist. So they have a duty and obligation to ensure that a proper legal team and financial support is given to the CW in the same manner that it is being given to BCFA, unless we have a racial divide in this country, or unless it is that the ministers, the prime minister we know are involved in cane. So it cannot be that they will protect their association and leave the CW and poor black men, because the black men will deal with out of door.
You are a stickler for processes, so I want to assume, and I'll ask you, but I want to assume that you agree with PBL in terms of their injunction when they say that the government is not legally allowed to pay CW $1.5 million without first taking it to the National Assembly.
I don't know that I can offer a whole lot of comments on that, but I would really like to hear from Port of Belize Limited when it is that they have been sticklers, as you referred to myself, for the law. If we were a country of law, and if they were a country of law, that port would still be in the hands of the Belizean public. So that's not a matter for me, that's a matter for the courts, but we'll see where that goes.
2 drug planes in less than 24 hours land in Belize, and the illicit cargo is whisked away. On Tuesday's newscast, we reported on the drug plane that crash-landed up north around 3 a.m. that morning. It was one of 2 tracks that were being monitored by Belize law enforcement overnight. But last night, another 2 narco planes were being tracked from South America en route to this area. This morning, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams said that a plane went down somewhere in Graham Creek in Toledo. It's a highly vegetated area that is difficult to access, but was used last year by another plane.
Last night we were monitoring 2 trucks again. As we normally do, we deployed our personnel across the country in different areas. And around 1 a.m. this morning, one of the planes hovered over the Bladen area for about 20 minutes. We had a team there. We believe they may have suspected that we had teams in that area, and so they went to the Kanakik area. And we had a team there as well. They circled there for like 10 minutes. And perhaps they figured something was wrong again, and they moved on. They went down south. And then we later found out that the plane may have landed in the Graham Creek area near the Belize-Guatemalan border. Again, that's an area which is heavily vegetated, and it poses significant challenges to the security forces to get to that location. And so I believe that's the reason why that area is chosen. I can say at this time we have not confirmed the landing, but we have all reasons to believe that the plane did land in that area. Teams are currently on their way to the location. It will take them about 6 to 9 hours to get there. That just goes to show the challenges that we're going to have to get there. And as soon as they have confirmed the landing, then we will share with the media.
As to the plane that landed up north on Tuesday morning, Compol Chester Williams confirmed that the aircraft landed in Fireburn Village in the Orange Walk district. And as it would appear, the narco traffickers have become crafty in carrying out their illegal activities. Spikes were laid across the road to prevent the responding officers from intercepting the crime. By the time law enforcement officers arrived at the scene, the illegal cargo from the plane had already been offloaded and removed from the area, purportedly via the river that flows into nearby Mexico.
Disappeared off the radar, so we lost communications or sight of it, even on the radar. And then when it do reappear again, it's because we have been told that it had landed in the Fireburn area. I think that's somewhere behind Carmelita Village in the Orange Walk district. I must say that we had a team in that area at Carmelita, and that team quickly made their way to the location, but while they were doing so, apparently the traffickers had placed spikes on the road, and the spikes caused damage to all the tires of the vehicle. So that disabled the team from reaching the location within a timely manner. And by the time another vehicle came to assist and get the officers, the team to the location, the plane was found without its cargo. We continue to conduct operations within that area with a view to see if we will be able to locate the cargo and those persons who may be responsible behind this landing. I think it took our team like 3 hours to get to the plane after the team experienced the spikes. 3 hours would have been quite reasonable if they have adequate vehicular resources to move the cargo from point A to point B. And you would know that there is a river nearby. And certainly they would not move it by road, but rather via the river. And that river that is there runs all the way to Botes, Mexico. So we believe that's the route that they took. Nonetheless, just to be sure, we are operating as if it is still in the area. We have teams there still conducting searches, and we're not going to give up so easily. We'll search as long as we can. In the event that it is in the area, that we will be able to find it.
Are locals playing a more integral role in the illegal landing of these drug planes? Rather than just clearing out the area ahead of landing, they may be facilitating the moving of the cargo across the border. According to Compol Chester Williams, there are a number of narco traffickers known to police who live in Carmelita Village, Orange Walk. Interestingly, these people were not at home when police went looking for them.
Well, we believe that the narco-traffickers are from within the general Carmelita area. There are a couple of them who operate out of Carmelita. We know who they are, and those are the persons we're looking for. If a matter of fact, we had gone to their homes yesterday, as I had directed the team, to make sure we go to their homes yesterday morning to see if they were there, and they were not at home. So that again says something that they could be involved and are still out in the fields dealing with the cargo. Certainly, the local people are the ones who know our terrain. They know the ins and outs of those areas. The Mexican cartel who would normally come would not be acquainted with our terrain or acquainted with how to maneuver the jungles. So they do rely on our local people who are from the particular areas to help them in that regard. So certainly they're not only clearing space, but they're also involved in the movement of these drugs. Like I've always said, we're not going to shy away from the fact that we certainly do understand that there are police officers who work with these cartels, but when they manifest themselves, then we deal with them. At this time, we have nothing to suggest that police officers are involved in these two latest landings. And if it is that something should come up later on to suggest that, then we do our investigation and move from there.
Compal Williams says that the department is working with the U.S. Embassy to enhance police presence and response within these remote areas in southern Belize being used for illegal plane landings. Back in December, the Security Services Commission gave its approval for Assistant Commissioner of Police Marco Vidal to be suspended for 60 days with pay as they did an investigation into his administrative misconduct. This was after several members of the Commander of Operations Strike Team came under suspicion for possible involvement in the November 4th drug plane landing near Bladen in southern Belize. Today, Compal Chester Williams gave an update on the status of that case involving the officers and their commander.
In respect to the junior officers, those matters are before the tribunal as well as the courts. And in respect to the senior officer, Mr. Vidal, we have submitted everything to the CEO, who then takes charge in ensuring that the show cause letter is sent to Mr. Vidal, and he has time to reply to the show cause letter. And based on the reply of the show cause letter, then it is determined whether or not the matters go before the Services Commission or it comes to an end there.
Coming up, the Prime Minister tours health facilities ahead of an improvement to the National Health Insurance Plan. Details when we return.
Digi, the premier name in voice and data, is also the country's leading provider of innovative services and solutions for small business and enterprise. At Digi Business, we offer solutions, tools, and applications to support your business needs. Reduce costs, improve efficiency, and excel in a changing world where no idea is too big and no task is too small. From technology advising to design implementation and management, our team of qualified solution sales and specialists can develop a reliable and robust infrastructure, allowing you to spend more time on what matters most, your business. Visit us online to explore how DigiBusiness innovative products and solutions can help your business reduce costs and improve efficiency.
Being fire-wise is knowing about the dangers of forest fires. We all know that during the dry season there's a greater chance of forest fires because of large amounts of dry leaves and dead branches that can easily ignite. Know the risks and help prevent fires from starting. Be prepared in the event that they do, and know how to protect yourself and your loved ones. For more information on how to prevent, prepare, and protect yourself and our forest from fires, call the Forest Department at 822-1524 or find us on Facebook.
La Unidad de Energía del Ministerio de Servicios Públicos, Energía, Logística y E-Gobernanza realizarán una encuesta nacional sobre el uso de la energía del 2 de febrero al 20 de mayo de 2022. La encuesta abarcará todos los sectores económicos de Belice y la información recolectada será usada para apoyar políticas energéticas y ayudar a planificar un futuro sostenible para el sector energético de Belice. Si su hogar ha sido seleccionado, un encuestador visitará su casa con una identificación. Las empresas recibirán un cuestionario en línea para completar. En ambos casos, el Ministerio solicita su amable colaboración. Esta encuesta está financiada por una subvención del Fondo Mundial para el Medio Ambiente, por medio del Banco Mundial como organismo ejecutor del proyecto, dentro del Proyecto de Resiliencia Energética para la Adaptación al Clima.
The official migration from Belize Bank Corporation Limited to Belize Bank Limited will take place over the weekend of February 25th to 28th, 2022. This means that as of 3 p.m. on Friday, February 25th through to Monday, February 28th, Belize Bank Corporation Limited customers will not be able to access any online banking, debit card, and in-branch services. The BBCL ATM network services will also be unavailable starting the morning of February 25th, 2022. We apologize for this inconvenience and encourage customers to prepare in advance by topping up their eCash wallet or ensuring they have the cash they will need. As of March 1st, your new Belize Bank Limited account number becomes effective and you will be able to access all the great services of Belize Bank. You will be able to use your new contactless debit card at merchants countrywide, have access to a wider network of ATMs, and be able to log in and access all the great online features. Your old account number will no longer work, so you will need to provide your new Belize Bank Limited account number to all the persons and firms you do business with, including your employer. Please note that the new account numbers have already been provided for all Government of Belize employees. We welcome you to our Belize Bank family, where you will enjoy lower fees and excellent customer service.
Do people actually hear from God? Are there really angels and demons? Okay, now that's just unbelievable. In our next series, we're going beyond the Google search and facing the tough questions. It's time to take on the skeptic and eliminate the doubt. From inconceivable to unimaginable, we're talking about the Bible's most unbelievable truths. Every second of this series will be worth your while. Believe it or not.
Clean and maintain your yard the best way with Honda trimmers and lawn mowers. Honda Lawn and Garden Equipment, available at Benquip. Equipment, parts, service.
The Joint Union's negotiating team met with its government counterparts today to discuss the state of the nation's finances and the reinstatement of the 10% salary cut for public officers and teachers. The meeting was held at the House of Culture in Belize City and ran for 4 hours. At its conclusion, we were able to speak to President of the Public Service Union, Dean Flowers. He gave no specifics, saying only there is now a proposed way forward.
There's a process through which each union must go before we can make public pronouncements. And unfortunately, with respect to that process, I'm unable to make any public declaration on the outcome of today's meeting. But what I'm able to share is that once again we had a very informed and detailed meeting as it relates to government finances, fiscal policies, and the financial position of the country. We go to a membership tonight, okay, and we inform them exactly what is government position as it relates to those issues. And then I believe that any time after tomorrow, we may be able to then get into further details as it relates to the discussions held today, which spanned in excess to the 10% and increment freezes that brought us here today. The discussion did expand to other topics of great importance to the Joint Union Negotiating Team, and more importantly also the Public Service Union and some of the issues that we're facing there.
The union side came here, of course, wanting to revert the 10%. Are you able to just confirm if at this stage the government side is making any proposals in regard to that you must put to your membership, or what you're putting to your membership is just saying these are the numbers of how things look like financially for the government right now?
I think for the most part we're beyond the numbers. Okay. I think the conversation today focused on the way forward, and there is a way forward, and like I said, we will have to relay that to our members in as accurate a manner as the government team relayed the government's position.
What do you anticipate is your next step in short term in terms of engagement with the government, or is this the final meeting in those short-term meetings?
In relation to ongoing meetings with the government, I believe that it would be fair for me to say this is a process that will continue throughout the term of this administration. Why? Because this is not a one-time issue whereby you can fix the many issues that brought us here. So what we're appreciative of is that the government also conceded to that.
The Attorney General's ministry has reportedly made a new pay scale proposal to the Ministry of Finance. Reports are that this seeks to increase the salaries of legal officers within the ministry. Given the current economic climate and 10% cut to public officers' salaries, last week Dean Flowers, the president of the Public Service Union, referred to this as an, quote, unconscionable submission, unquote. But when News 5 spoke with the Prime Minister, John Briceño, today, he explained the rationale behind the Attorney General's ministry submission, noting, however, that the timing of the proposal may not be right.
I unofficially met the president, Flowers, Dean Flowers. He had a meeting in my office, and I was getting in there when he was leaving on outside, and I was talking to him. We had a very cordial discussion, and as I told him, I said, Dean, all of us are in the same boat. We don't fight with one another. Not everything has to be a fight. The letter that he sent was a nasty letter. It did not need to be like that. He could have sent a decent letter saying, well, we're opposed for whatever reasons he may be. The point is that the Attorney General is making the point that under the Legal Services Commission, they are separate from the public service. They are not a part of the public service, just like the judges and the magistrates. They are not a part of it, and that is why they have a different pay scale. And I wish that Dean would have taken the time to be able to study that. But over the years, they have kept them in the same pay scale as government, when they really constitutionally do not belong under that pay scale. Now, I could understand the Attorney General trying to look after her employees, because what the challenge that we're facing is a lot of these attorneys that we have working, they're saying, well, you know what, I could go to the private sector. I mean, they're being paid like about $40,000 a year. And for an attorney, I mean, that's no kind of money. And so she is concerned that they're going to leave, and then she's going to stay with no one. And then when you're trying to get people to come to work, they would not come to work for $40,000 a month, a year. So she is attempting to correct that. The timing maybe it's not at the right, maybe it's something that we can look at in the near future. But I wish that Dean Flowers would not have to be reacting like everything like, no, it's a fight.
We also received a comment from Dean Flowers, the president of the Public Service Union. He says the issue was raised today in the joint union's meeting with the government counterpart. Flowers maintained that matters involving the salary of any public officer falls within the purview of the Public Service Commission. Flowers asserted that the authority of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission and the Security Services Commission is not parallel with the Public Service Commission.
There is only one General Revenue Fund, and there is only one public service. And everybody that gets paid who works for the government out of the General Revenue Fund are public officers. Now, the Public Service Regulation speaks, of course, of the establishment also of a Judicial and Legal Services Commission and a Security Services Commission. That does not, there is no provision in there, as far as my non-legal understanding is concerned, that makes these commissions parallel to the Public Service Commission. These are commissions established to appoint, transfer, and deal with these officers. But where disciplinary procedures, I believe, and your salary, your gratuity, your superannuity payments are concerned, that those are the role of the Public Service Commission. And so the Security Services Commission, in my view, were wrong. What is even more shameful, and that is becoming a word synonymous with that group over there, is that these legal service officers were previously governed by the Public Service Regulation. That is clearly stated in their terms and conditions of employment. These legal officers who sit on the Legal and Judicial Services Commission should know that you cannot change somebody's term and conditions of service or contract of employment unilaterally and without consultation. And hence the reason I said it would appear that the word shame is becoming synonymous with some of the individuals that represent this group of individuals. We maintain that there was no consultation. We maintain that they did not have the legal right and basis to simply wake up one day and pass an SI, changing the term and conditions under which those legal services officers, and by extension the judiciary, is governed. And we spoke a little bit on that today, and that matter will be looked at and addressed.
The Prime Minister now is saying, listen, if we allow them to stay at the salaries they are, they will leave the public service. We don't have no legal officers, because in the private sector they're being paid way much more than they're making here.
So the Prime Minister now speaks out against the Maya people and the balkanization of the South, and that he won't support that. But he is saying, and you could help me, Marisol, is he then saying that he supports this segregation and discrimination of technical service officers?
Minister of Health Kevin Bernard and Prime Minister John Briceño visited 3 NHI providers in Belize City today: the Mercy Clinic, Belize Healthcare Partners Limited, and Matron Roberts Polyclinic. The familiarization tour was for government officials to get a clearer picture of what needs to be done to improve the National Health Insurance Scheme.
It's a matter of proper planning and proper organization. For instance, the previous government expanded NHI to the Corozal district, but it was limited in services that they provided. Under our administration, with Dr. Mendes and Dr. Figueroa and his team, they went to Corozal and opened up the competition to provide services, so that they've even hired now a private clinic. And by doing that kind of competition, now the costs tend to come down. And so the public hospitals also have to compete to be able to provide that service. And with the competition, the cost has come down. And that has allowed us in the Corozal district, with the very same budget that was done under the previous government, now that we're providing other services, imaging services, mammograms, blood tests, and so many other things that were not being provided. That goes to show that if we can find that balance where you use the private sector, you use the NGO, for instance, this is an NGO clinic, and the government clinics, we then can be able to give services to a lot more people. The problem that's happening right now is that everybody goes to the public hospitals.
The objective, in part, is for there to be a level of competition among service providers. PM Briceño explains further.
What we are trying to do is trying to create some form of competition in providing the services, of course, with certain parameters of what kind of services that we expect. And by doing that, then you create efficiencies, not only in the private sector, but the NGO community, and even our private or public hospitals, because our public hospitals also have to compete, to be able to get the funding to provide the services. And at the same time, it eases that pressure in our regional hospitals, where you provide what we call secondary services, medical services. At the clinics, it's mostly primary, where we are sick, you got a headache, you have a cough, they look after you. And then if you need more service or more sophisticated service, then they would send you to the secondary hospitals where where you can get operations.
The Prime Minister and his team of financial advisors met with the International Monetary Fund on Tuesday to discuss Belize's economic standing. While the IMF looks favorably at the Briceño administration's success in turning around Belize's economic outlook, the 10% salary cut which teachers and public officers received last year persists. According to PM Briceño, the Ministry of Finance is still trying to work out an amicable solution for the wage reduction.
Let's talk about the reviews from the IMF. Nobody expected our government to be able to accomplish what we did in 1 year. And as I told them, it is not only our work. Yes, we had the ideas and we worked very hard to get it done, but also it included our public officers. I mean, they went through tremendous sacrifice to be able to help us to get where we are. Now, when it comes to the 10%, today as we speak, the DPM and Minister of Education, I think Minister Osha is also meeting with the unions to discuss the 10%. We know that people are suffering, we know that people are punishing, we know that the cost of living continues to go up, and it would be unconscionable if we would say, oh no, we're not going to because the IMF. And I told the IMF that we also have a responsibility to our people, to our citizens, and we're going through a difficult time. It's not only about the numbers, but it is financial numbers, but it's also about people. How will we give them the full 10%? We don't know. That's what we're discussing with them, and we feel that we'll be able to come up with a compromise that everybody can live with. But that's what they're working on at this moment.
After the break, law enforcement takes steps to clamp down on cyber crimes. But first, here's a look at the latest COVID-19 figures.
Offers the best mobile experience in Belize? You don't know? Well, the truth is, Digi, our national telecom, of course. Digi has the largest mobile LTE advanced network with over 96% countrywide coverage, offering the fastest mobile LTE data speeds at the most affordable rates with mobile plans that fit your lifestyle. The truth is, Only Digi gives the ultimate mobile LTE experience. Visit your nearest Digi store to join the bigger, better network today. Digi, our national telecom. Visit us online at www.livedigi.com.
I've always enjoyed the different flavors of my country. Every nook and cranny has its own unique taste.
Our history, rich with culture. We've come so far since our independence. Our flag, rivers, mountains, our people, diverse and strong.
Looking back, I am proud and honored. We must continue to preserve and conserve our culture and country for the next generation.
This is our Belize. Respect it, cherish it, love it.
At BEL, we remain committed to delivering safe, reliable, and sustainable energy solutions to communities across Belize. We are connecting more homes and businesses to enhance the quality of life and the productivity of enterprise and to support national development. We are always here for you.
Welcome to Design Depot. All in one place. Shop brands you know and trust, like Kohler. Welcome, GE Appliances.
Welcome.
Oran Windows.
Welcome.
Tiles from around the world.
Welcome.
Sherwin-Williams Paint and Coatings. Visit us today at Mile 3 on the Philip Golson Highway or call us at 223-3768. Design Depot. All in one place.
When something is good and you can save, that makes it even better. Like this guy, he buys Flex bundles using his promo credit. No worries when his primary credit is finished. He gets talk, text, and data for free. Or her, she calls her family internationally with her promo credit. And with data packages so affordable, she even does video calls. Smart continues to offer great deals and affordable promotions. As a small business owner, she saves when she uses her promo credit to call the other guys. All Smart customers enjoy more triple days and knowing they can use their promo credit, which just lasts longer. Smart, bringing people together.
There was no cabinet meeting earlier this week because the ministers will instead gather on Thursday for an overnight at Dream Valley Resort in Tea Kettle, Cayo. The change in venue has many asking what's wrong with the House of Culture in Belize City, where they would often meet, and at what cost to taxpayers. According to Prime Minister John Briceño, the retreat is to discuss the 2022 budget, ways to provide some relief to the cost of living, and the COVID-19 pandemic, among other issues. News 5 spoke with Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa, who says the two-day session is all about work.
It will be at, I think, a place called Dream Valley. I believe it is outside Belmopan.
Okay, so when people hear the word retreat, they think about rest and relaxation, and I guess for the
Absolutely.
ministers, planning,
Yes,
share the cost.
Yes, this is absolutely not rest and relaxation. It's quite the opposite. It is actually dedicated to fully addressing, like I said, certain important issues that we have moving forward, especially the budget, the upcoming budget for the financial year. And so there is no rest and relaxation involved. In terms of the cost for the one night, you would have to check with the financial secretary. I'm not privy to those costs.
Okay, so allow me to put to you, sir, that what you can do at Dream Valley, you can do at an extended cabinet meeting.
It's possible, like I said, but it's important for us to meet together as cabinet in an isolated environment to tackle these issues where there are no distractions, day-to-day distractions that we may have at a cabinet meeting, and certainly for us to all be able to put on our thinking caps to coming up with the plan on the way forward.
A high-level meeting was held to strengthen the Central America justice and security sector capacities to effectively prevent, identify, and prosecute cybercrime. Recently, legislation was tabled to address cybercrimes in Belize following many incidents of cyberbullying and defamation by way of social media platforms. At today's event, held by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, a digital forensic laboratory was officially handed over to the Belize Police Department. On hand were Commissioner of Police Chester Williams and Home Affairs Minister Karim Musa.
It's our digital forensics laboratory, and what that entails is actually the receiving of devices and training from the UNODC, who are our partners in this cybercrime initiative. Of course, a lot of the equipment that we're receiving is the latest advanced technology that will help us to open cell phones, open computers, different types of electronic devices, which could be a huge aid in terms of detecting and preventing cybercrime. As you know, cybercrime over the last few years has become a huge deal, especially internationally, because of all the cyber attacks that are now taking place, the hacking of people's accounts, the invasion of privacy, and all of these things. And so this is now a pivot into the new era, and it is, in my opinion, a revolutionary step for us as a small country.
We are grateful to the UNODC for this very generous donation today of computers and software that is going to enable us to be able to properly investigate cybercrime, child pornography, fraud, and other internet-related crimes. We're seeing a trend now where a number of persons are using Facebook in particular, creating fake accounts and defaming the character of people. With what we have received today, we'll be able to unmask those fake accounts. We're collaborating more closely with Facebook to be able to get information on these fake accounts and other accounts that may be used to defame persons' character. And so I want to say to those persons who believe that they can hide behind a fake Facebook account and create mischief, that now we will have the capability to be able to unmask them, and then we're going to deal with them. We have the Cybercrime Act, and we have the defamation bill, which may more likely become law very shortly, that do requires that we be able to extract information from computer devices, search the internet, deal with Facebook to get whatever evidence we may need to enhance any prosecution that we may wish to proceed with.
While the Belize Police Department received a virtual forensic laboratory to assist in combating cybercrimes, as we found out today from Karim Musa, specialized units within the department have been using body cameras for some time now while performing their duties. The Home Affairs Minister says that it provides a different perspective when there are confrontations with the officers, and that they are working with the Attorney General's ministry to ensure that video footage can hold water during court proceedings.
We have approximately 200 body cameras that are being used by the specialized units of the police department. We're talking about the special patrol unit as well as the GI3. These are cameras that are worn by the police officers basically to give us insight into the interaction that police officers have with members of the public, and it certainly adds a whole layer of accountability in terms of how we approach, because that's something that our administration has been very adamant about, changing that culture that has been there for so many years. So I think that body cams are certainly a way of getting the full picture, because many times people who are recording will splice their video and you only end up seeing the bad interaction from the police officers, and so this would then enable us to see what prompted or what led to certain interactions with members of the public.
When it actually comes to those body cams, is there legislation to support those to be used in a court of law?
As far as I'm aware, yes, but we are working along with the Attorney General's ministry to ensure that it can be tightened to the extent to ensure that it's admissible in court. So that is very important as well for us to be able to utilize it in a court of law.
Home Affairs Minister Karim Musa also supports the removal of the curfew, which is likely to take effect on March 1st. But does this help with the bigger issue of crime? Musa says, contrary to what people may think, the curfew does not hinder crime. It simply changes the time frame during which criminal elements operate.
We are at a point in time where we are seeing a downward trend in the especially hospitalizations, and I think the public is certainly craving the need to get back to some sense of normalcy and want to be able to not feel as contained as we felt over the last 2 years with COVID. And so whenever we have a down time in COVID, we have to take those opportunities to definitely free up.
With the curfew being lifted, do you feel or do you expect the criminal elements to be more at play at night?
A lot of people believe that for some reason the curfew has helped with crime. I am not of that belief because we've just seen where criminals move up whatever criminal act that they want to do. They move it up earlier in the day.
They were forced because of the curfew.
Sorry?
They were forced
to move it up.
Because of
yes,
the curfew.
And so I don't see any greater increase. Like I said, crime, of course, will always be an issue and will always be a priority for our government, but I don't believe that the curfew was in any way a deterrent to crime.
Did Compal Chester Williams approve gun licenses for 2 M16 rifles for an unnamed but reportedly well-known businessman? Here's how he responded to that question this morning.
Total nonsense.
Not true.
That's all I will say.
Not true.
Total nonsense.
I think we kind of get a commentary on the UNODC investigation.
Perhaps, Jules, you could get me the name of that person and bring the evidence.
Just ahead, where in Belize has the highest cost of living? The Statistical Institute of Belize has the answers when we return. But first, here's a weather update with data from the Belize Met Service.
This weather update is brought to you by Smart. This weather update was brought to you by Smart.
I visited the land of Serbia, a great many miles away. I ascended the Mount Everest few people have conquered. I roared on the snow-covered Antarctic and Arctic. I rolled swiftly across the vast, untamed desert. Ling Long Tire conquers every corner of the world.
Distributed by Enrique Martinez and Sons Limited, 2 miles Philip Golson Highway, Belize City.
In 2018, I was diagnosed with cervical 4A, stage 4A cancer. First, it was the size of a grapefruit. That's what the doctor told me. No? The kidney got enlarged. I couldn't do any chemotherapy because of the kidney, so I had to do only radiation. And I did my first session of 25, and then when I finished with the 25 sessions, I went back. She checked it, and she saw 4 centimeters, and I went back for the next 10 days, and after that, when she checked it again, she said, "Oh, it's like nothing is there." It wasn't painful. It's just it's a machine that you go under, and they have like a big, like a circular, and that goes 5 times. It'll take 5 minutes. 5 minutes to do the radiation, 1 session. Then you go back the next morning, another session. Well, I personally will highly recommend Galenia Hospital because of its good services, friendly staff, the doctors, very caring. Well, I just want to thank them for everything that they have done for me, you know, the staff and the doctor, especially Dr. Jamie, because she was my doctor for the radiation. No?
The ministry is collaborating with SpeedNet Communications to have a vaccination campaign for children ages 12 to 17 years. Children who get vaccinated will get a chance to win fabulous prizes, including backpacks with supplies, Nintendo Switch, tablets, book tuitions, and MiFi with 3 months data. Only children 12 to 17 years old can participate in this Smart and Ministry of Health and Wellness raffle. At vaccination sites, each vaccinated child, upon being vaccinated, will receive a ticket to place their name, age, date of birth, BHIS number, and contact information on, which will be filled out by a parent or legal guardian. The sooner a person vaccinates, the more chances he or she will have to win. Get vaccinated, Belize! Vaccination saves lives.
Consumer prices are up again. In fact, they rose by 4% in January. According to the Statistical Institute of Belize, the increases were seen in fuel, food, LPG, restaurants, and even cleaning supplies. Belizeans paid more for basic goods last month when compared to January of 2021. Significant increases were recorded in products such as chicken wings, pigtail, vegetable oil, and even limes. The transportation sector saw a substantial increase of 16.2% with the price of fuel, new motor vehicles, and international airfare recording increases. Belizeans also paid more for water, electricity, and furniture. Where were prices highest? In Orange Walk Town, almost 6%. Diana Trejo of SIB says higher prices do cause people to rein in their spending.
As a consumer myself, or ourselves as consumers, having the information that we have, we would want to be mindful of the categories and the products that are seeing the most increase. So if perhaps I am a consumer that I use a lot of fuel, I drive a lot, I might want to cut down on how much fuel I use and drive less, you know. Persons might make adjustments like going out less on the weekends and things like that so that they consume less fuel. I might want to be mindful of the brands of products that I buy, because some brands are more expensive than others, and you know that food items especially are one of the ones that we're seeing going up a lot. So I as a consumer might want to substitute certain products that are seeing the bigger price increases with others that might not be going up so much. And with respect to the cost of living, as Mr. Perez said, it is two different measures, because it is possible, for example, to have a low inflation and yet still have a high cost of living, because the cost of living has to do with the price or the overall price of all the basic goods and services that consumers consume, but they are very closely related, because as your inflation goes up, obviously your cost of living would go up.
The fourth quarter for 2021 saw growth for Belize's economy. According to SIB's statistics, the economy grew by 4.1%, or $84 million. This is compared to the fourth quarter in 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the fourth quarter of 2020, GDP dipped by more than 16%. But the data now shows that the tides turned in 2021. This 2021 increase, according to SIB, was driven primarily by the tertiary sector, including tourism.
The tertiary sector recorded the largest increase among all sectors, with a significant 22.1% growth, or $75.6 million across all tertiary industries, bringing this total to $418 million. Within this sector, the wholesale and retail trade subsector went up by 31.8%, as imports went up by 52%. Imported crude materials was up by 61%, and imported mineral fuels and lubricants also rose by 122%. The hotels and restaurants industry continues to slowly rebound, with a total of $19.4 million compared to quarter 4 of 2020.
Notably, the secondary sector, which includes electricity and water generation, construction, and mining, saw a fall in production for the fourth quarter of 2021. Overall, production decreased from a volume valued at $90 million to $73 million in production. This is a 19% decline. And SIB says it is as a result of a more than 50% decrease in electricity and water generation.
Electricity production, we see it decreased from 110.4 thousand megawatt hours in 2020 quarter 4 to 45.6 thousand megawatt hours in 2021 quarter 4. Now, this fall in production is due to two things. This quarter experienced less rain than the previous quarter in 2020, but there's also a reason that 2020 was so high. That was a very active hurricane season during November, when we had Eta and Iota hitting Nicaragua around that time. So if you compare 2021 to 2019 and 2018, the difference is not that large, but 2020 was very abnormal because it had a high amount of rainfall over the norm, right? So that's why it looks so big. But if you compare the previous quarters of the other years,
then it's not that big of a drop off.
Primary activities saw an increase in 3% of the fourth quarter of 2021. Moving now to imports and exports. Sugar and animal feed drove up the total domestic exports in January. According to SIB's data, earnings from sugar grew by a notable $2.5 million in the period, for a total of $3.8 million in sugar exports. Also, animal feed exports were up by $1 million. The bad news in the export market is the constant decline in crude petroleum exports. Overall, exports for the month of January totaled $20 million, while imports for the same period totaled $190 million. But the SIB points out that these measurements look at goods and not services, even though Belize has a very service-oriented economy.
I think if you would have been looking at the trends of imports and exports over the past several years, you will see that imports have consistently been quite a great deal higher than exports, and I think where we are right now, imports are somewhere around between 2 and 3 times the value of exports. One thing to remember is that we are talking here only merchandise trade, so these are just goods. We are not a country that produces a whole lot of goods physically. As you see when we did the GDP presentation, 2/3 of our economy is based on the production of services. So merchandise trade then doesn't take into account the export of services, things like tourism and other types of services that would generate some form of export income or foreign exchange. So there is that. That is something that we ourselves don't measure at this time. But yes, certainly it's that sort of imbalance necessarily means that we either need to import less, which I think that the productive sector is highly dependent on importation. One of our biggest sectors in tertiary wholesale and retail trade is almost entirely dependent on imports. So, the other way to close whatever gap there is in terms of total imports, including goods and services, would be to expand our production of services.
A delegation from Belize is in Jamaica to meet with port authorities and the Caribbean Maritime University. Minister of Public Utilities, Energy, Logistics and E-Governance, Michelle Shabat, is heading the official delegation of Belize Port Authority officials on the 5-day visit. The group will meet with the heads of the Jamaican Ministry of Transport and Mining, Maritime Authority of Jamaica, Port Authority of Jamaica, and Caribbean Maritime University. According to a release from the government press office, Jamaica plays a leading role in the international maritime industry. A primary objective of the visit is to gain technical support to help better regulate the maritime industry in Belize. The delegation is also exploring scholarship opportunities with the Caribbean Maritime University and capacity building for the expansion of cargo and cruise port facilities. Up next, new weather stations to help predict potential disasters. Details when we return.
What is the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine? The Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine is an RNA vaccine that triggers our immune system to develop antibodies against the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19. It helps to reduce hospitalization, severity of the disease, and death. What is the Pfizer vaccine made of, and is it safe? The Pfizer vaccine is made up of mRNA messenger ribonucleic acid, which are molecules that carry the genetic information needed to make proteins, lipids, salts, and sugar. It is safe for persons 12 years and older and does not contain the COVID-19 virus, hence cannot cause infection. Tests have shown that the vaccine is effective against current virus variants. Who should take the Pfizer vaccine? The Pfizer vaccine should be taken by persons 12 years of age and older who do not have severe allergic reaction after a previous dose of vaccine or have not had severe allergic reaction to any ingredient of this vaccine. 2 doses of the vaccine are required 3 weeks apart. If you are between the ages of 12 and 17 years, you are required to present a signed consent form before you are vaccinated. What are the side effects of the Pfizer vaccine? Some common side effects of the Pfizer vaccine are headache, fatigue, muscle pain, fever, chills, and swelling at the injection site. If side effects persist, contact your doctor as soon as possible. Does the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine prevent infection and transmission? No, vaccination alone does not prevent infection and transmission. We are still required to continue to wear masks properly, physically distance, wash and sanitize hands often, practice proper coughing and sneezing hygiene, and avoid crowds.
Taking its name from the venerable father of the nation, the George Price Highway stretches 77 miles from Belize City to Benqueviejo. Originally built in the 1930s, this cross-country highway system is the artery that links Belize to Central America at the western border with Guatemala. That connection facilitates overland trade, supporting Belize's economic development. Winding its way across the scenic countryside, the George Price Highway from Roaring Creek to Esperanza has been fully reconstructed to meet international standards, with particular emphasis on road safety. A shorter and hassle-free commute is best enjoyed when everyone obeys the traffic laws. To reduce the number and frequency of road traffic accidents, it means that a seatbelt must be worn at all times and the speed limit observed when traveling along the highway. It also means that pedestrians must use sidewalks and crosswalks where available. Buses should only board and discharge passengers at a designated bus stop. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. It begins with you. It's a fact that your credit lasts longer when using Smart. During these times, we're all trying to find ways to cut costs and save the little resources we have. With Smart, it's easy to do that. It's a fact that with Smart, your credit lasts longer. You can call Smart to Smart and Smart to Digi using your promo credit, while with the other guy, you can only call OnNet, Digi, or BTL numbers. What does this mean? You get to call any national number using your promo credit. Your promo credit is free, so that call is also free. Know your facts. Don't be tricked by the other guy. Be smart and save your dollars.
The ramifications of climate change can be disastrous to any nation without adequate early warning systems for natural disasters. Today, Belize received an evapotranspiration station from the European Union to complement our existing weather tracking system. News 5's Marian Ali was in Central Farm for the handing over ceremony.
The ET weather station is one of 3 that the European Union is gifting to Belize as part of a larger regional project that benefits 16 countries. Located in Central Farm, Toledo, and Orange Walk, the 3 pieces of equipment serve to enhance Belize's ability to detect natural disasters before they can threaten lives and property.
The overall objective of the program is to reduce risks and vulnerabilities from climate change to human-made and natural assets in CARIFORUM countries. This reduction in risks and vulnerabilities will benefit directly and indirectly the more than 35 million people who live in the CARIFORUM member states via the provision of improved forecasting and predictions emanating from the observational and monitoring networks being installed across the region.
Altogether, across the region, there are 41 of the weather stations that the EU has donated at a cost of around $40,000 Belize each. EU Ambassador to Belize, Marianne Van Steen, spoke about their use.
What do weather stations do? Well, they will provide valuable information and, on weather forecasting, what's going to be the weather today, tomorrow, next week. But they do a lot more. The information they provide is also valuable to monitor climate variability and climate change over longer periods. And that information can therefore be extremely important for planning and decision making for development. The Caribbean region is facing water and food insecurity due to climate change, and the European Union's program is therefore aimed at strengthening how climate-related information can be used to plan better and to make better decisions to tackle those challenges.
Belize's Minister of Sustainable Development, Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management, Orlando Habet, pledged that the government will ensure the weather stations are maintained to minimize threats to our food security.
Acknowledging that adequate monitoring of the weather and climate is a fundamental component in developing a climate-resilient society, the government of Belize, through this ministry, is committed to providing the support that will be necessary to ensure the long-term sustainability of this project. This includes ensuring that these stations, as well as all others in the National Meteorological Services network of stations, are properly maintained and that the appropriate infrastructure is in place to adequately store, analyze, and disseminate the information derived in a user-friendly and effective manner.
In tandem with this effort, Minister Habet said that the National Met Service is working on rolling out a mobile app that will be designed to make data from the weather stations readily available to people in the agricultural sector. Reporting for News 5, I'm Marian Ali.
Last week, some residents of Barranco Village had protested logging concessions giving out for logging activity in their village to people from other areas of Toledo. Minister of the Environment, Orlando Habet, has been out of the country, but today we asked for his perspective on their concerns.
When the applications come in, they go to the forestry department and the personnel will look at the application, look at the area that they are applying for, and normally they would go to LIC office at Lands Department to get a map of the area. It doesn't necessarily mean that that map will really indicate where they can get, because it can be a map of a portion of land that was already logged maybe the year before, 2 years before, so that there will be no logs in there. So in addition to that, they would also have to check to see if that map doesn't correspond to another application that is already in before this last one comes in, and so that there is a decision-making process. In terms of the consultation, there is no established process for consultation because they don't really fall under the FPIC protocol like it does for the 42 Maya communities, which took this issue to court and got their voice heard and a decision done by the CCJ. And so what happened in this occasion was that we were approached by the village leaders, namely the village chairman, I think another councillor, and so we granted some logging licenses to 2 members from the village council, I think 1 or 2 other members from the community. And yes, one of the questions that has been asked was whether we gave a license to Minister Espat's daughter. And the reality is that we gave out a license to Miss Melanina. I didn't know if she was Espat or not, but accordingly she's Minister Espat's daughter. But she also got a license together with another villager, and one Mr. Mahler, who also got a license together with 1 or 2 other villagers. So the community did get, but perhaps what has happened is, and I saw some videos from some people who were interviewed, and there was one individual, I think, who was making the comments that they didn't get anything for the community. That certain individual got a license in 2020 and 2021, but didn't get this time. So it's really, in a way, it has been shared to other people. So what we can do from the ministry's standpoint is to communicate with them to see what is the process that they would want to see for the consultation.
We also asked Minister Habet whether the government will help to salvage what's left of the Barranco Beach after aggressive erosion has washed away much of the shoreline. He said they are waiting for a report from a Cuban research team on what steps to take.
It's a difficult situation. The bank is very high, so it's prone to erosion. So some of the techniques that are being considered are rocks, hanging tires, which would be environmentally friendly, but maybe can hold it for a while. And then we had a team of from Cuba who were here doing some research last year, and we are awaiting a report from them to see what recommendation they have as to how we can address that situation. So we are looking at it. I just mentioned that it's a very expensive endeavor to do the retention wall or something like that we don't know if it would work.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.